Hey everybody, Matt Michaels here on the DeFalco Files with the owner and creator of the Future Stars of Wrestling, FSW, here in Las Vegas, Mr. Joe DeFalco. Joe, it's episode 113, which is pretty damn coincidence or ironic that it is the 13th anniversary show coming up on this Sunday, which is Father's Day. Couldn't have timed it better, man.
Yeah, I guess what you call it is the luck of the draw. It was, we were looking at doing the anniversary weekend on the 28th, but, with AEW in town, plans changed. So we had to give it certain time. And, when certain people were available, like Hammerstone, you want to make sure your main players are there, and, we pretty much got everything we wanted. Just found out Viva Van is not able. She thought the show was Saturday, which initially it was. And we were about to make the announcement that we were going to have the vacant women's title decided at the anniversary show. So I guess we're going to hold off on that. And it looks like a lot of the youngsters who were going to be in the pre-show battle royal will now be headed on to the main card.
Wow. Right now, as it stands, how many matches are officially booked?
Right now, including the battle royal, there will be 8 total. So didn't want to go to 9 because there's definitely matches on the anniversary show that need time to develop. I can't see Matt Vandergriff and Jay Vidal not going, close to 20 minutes.
And that's just their entrances.
Huh?
That's just their entrances.
No, that's Funny Bone's entrance, but yeah.
Yeah.
Who was recently added to the Cash in the Case ladder match. So it's weird, things happen the way they happen. But this anniversary show really focuses on the homegrown talent. There isn't any big name outside guys coming in. Obviously a Hammerstone, but he's been our guy for 10 years. And it's guys that have become Vegas wrestling legends like Cody and Funny Bone and Jacob Austin Young and Remy Marcel and Sharp and mixed in with the newer breed of the Damian Drakes and the Ice Williams and the Vandergriffs and the Jay Vidals. So, and then the Battle Royal, gives us a chance to relive the past history with Dave Mazzani and Leon Hayter coming in for this one. Plus some young talent that we like a lot, like Blair Brody is going to be there with Wolfgang and Devin Reno. So there's going to be, some spots. I don't know if you're aware, but I guess there was a major incident where Mondo Rocks got fucked up at the BVW show. And I didn't know anything about it that happened. I saw a post from Robbie, and then I saw it. He was using Santana Jackson as the springboard, and he overshot the opponent, and he basically landed right on his fucking back and his head, and all it is concrete with a little layer of carpet. So I haven't had a chance. I hit up Robbie to see what was up, but it was weird, kind of cryptic posts as, we'll see if Mondo's done, and as this moment he is, and it was like, okay, that seems a little, accidents happen, Mondo overshot it, those things happen. So, I'd love the opportunity to speak, but, those are two guys that we, penciled in as two people that were going to be in the battle royal, guys that have definitely earned a spot on the show. So I'm not sure what's up with Robbie, but obviously Mondo's probably going to be not available for that one.
Yeah. Wow. That's just awful to hear. And like you said, accidents do happen. Hopefully, it's just getting back on the horse type of thing, and mentally getting past that apprehension of getting back in the ring. So, wow. Since that's something that had just happened this past weekend, let me ask you: is there any person or incident that sticks out in your mind over the 13 years you've been running that was a situation where maybe someone did get injured in a freak spot that at first maybe they were apprehensive of coming back, but they made their way back? Is anything stick out to you along those types of those lines in the history of FSW?
Yeah, I remember one show where we did what we called a match after it aired that it was even too violent for television. And it was, I believe, a 4-way tag ladder match. And I know the Commandos were in it. Mike Modest and I think Alcatraz were a team. I think the Von Dooms, and I don't remember who the fourth one was. But at the time, Mike Modest had his valet, and she was seated at a chair at ringside. And I remember the Commandos, they held Mike Modest up, and they threw him, and they were trying to throw him at her, and they either overshot or undershot, but Mike Modest broke his arm and got fucked up. And, that was one that really sticks out because I just remember it. The match was insane. I remember the Commandos throwing a chair, and there was this guy, JR, who was green as green can be, big dude. And when he threw the chair, as JR got up to the ring apron, he raised his arm like this. So when the chair hit him, it ended up going into the front row and hit a fucking kid in the face. And it was like, what a fucking disaster. We thought that was the end of our run at Silver Nugget. So that one for sure stands out. And of all the times at the Nugget, I can't think of any injuries. I remember a couple of crazy stories. One time, the Vegas Originals, it was Jason Partain and Rush at Sam's Town. And there was this bald guy in the front row who basically went after Jason Partain. And wow. I'm looking at the monitor, and I'm like, what the fuck? And it turned out it was Rocky's stepdad who somehow got pissed off. And thank God, because, Partain was known to go off on occasion. And he didn't know it was Rocky's dad, and he handled himself very well. Then about 6 months later, Heather Lynn was the manager for like Bryce Harrison, couple of others, Rick Ellis, whatever it was. And I remember there was a lady screaming at her and looking to go after her, and it was Rocky's mother. It was like, what the fuck is going on? It was like, those were, definitely some moments, that stood out, in 13 years. You can go from the first show, at the Rancho Swap Meet where it was 130 degrees, you know what I mean? Yeah. And, Cutthroat Cody, who was Crash Test at the time, takes a choke slam to get eliminated. He tries to grab the rope. He missed, and he fucking lands straight on the concrete, worse than Mondo Rocks did. And that's how Crash Test Cody was born, because he wasn't Crash Test Cody, but he immediately was after that. So that's where the CTC moniker came in, Wow. And, guys that worked the first show, Funny Bone had jumped off a basketball hoop somewhere in NorCal, So he had a broken collarbone or whatever, but he got involved in the elimination main event where Nykirk lost to Kenny King. So he was on the show but didn't wrestle. And Remy was a guy from New York at the time who Scotty Ice was buddies with. So he got him on the spot in the Battle Royal. And we used a bunch of Legacies guys, but the only three were Cody, Remy, and Funny Bone, and Kenny King. And guys like Gallo were on that first show, who kind of come and gone in between. The most famous tag team in wrestling, the Cutler brothers were there, along with the Young Bucks. So, it was definitely a potpourri of talent. We had last minute cancellations. Ryan Taylor was booked on that first show, and then he held me up for $10. True story. We agreed on a price, and then he was like, "Hey, Joe, I got a show close to home. They're going to pay me $10 more, if you can match it." And it's like, dude, it's $10. So if I match it, what happens if they offer you 5 more? You know what I mean? It's like you made a commitment. Brandon Gatson was supposed to be on the show, but he ended up not being able to make it, but we knew it. A guy who grew up to be Ricardo Rodriguez, Chimera, SoCal. Him and SoCal Crazy, they were booked on the show, and they canceled because a team called Anchors Away, they used to run shows in San Diego. And we had talked, but there was no spot for them. So they decided 2 weeks before to now run the show that they would run in San Diego. And SoCal Crazy and Chimera, needless to say, said, "Hey, we got a booking close to home." And it's like, okay, whatever. And then down the line, whatever. Little Cholo, he just no-showed and never showed up. So it's like, in some of those cases, those guys that hit me up years later, and it's like, dude, you blew me off when we did our first show. So it's like, no offense, but sorry.
Well, and that's something too. I think any young wrestler who hears those words, that is very important in terms of when you're dealing with a company that's doing their first show, or let's even say it's the first year within their business. It doesn't, doesn't put you in a good standing to making a commitment and then pull out, especially because of the fact that it's a newer company. If you're going to commit to it, it looks bad because it looks like you're pulling out because either you're being offered more money or, a company that's closer to home that's been around for 5-6 years might be, the place that you're going to, but you're already committed. It just, it blows my mind.
Yeah. Don't, here's your opportunity to break into a new market that hasn't had local wrestling in like 10 years. If you go out there and you perform well, you're one of the first guys. I studied YouTube. I saw people that, I enjoyed or I was impressed with at the time. It was 2009, and it was like, hey, wow, these Young Bucks, man, I like these guys. These guys look pretty good, and we ran it at the Rancho Swap Meet, which is a heavy Latino Mexican area. So I'm like, hey, I'm going to bring in Extreme Loco and SoCal Crazy. And I advertised in the Spanish newspaper because I'm thinking, hey, it's lucha stuff, man. Let's get some lucha in there. And Mike Modest was going to work his old Border Patrol gimmick, and it was like, well, it was kind of weird because, there was barely any Latinos who came to the show. They weren't impressed with SoCal lucha guys that they had never heard of. You know what I mean? And, it was understandable. It was the first mistake that we had made, but we were lucky enough to draw 231 people. That I will always remember that number. the day I die, and it was blistering hot. The swamp coolers barely worked because the main air conditioning was broken, and the Young Bucks dad was there, the Young Bucks, and years later, months later, when they made it big, they always remembered working the Future Stars of Wrestling debut show, just because it was so fucking hot.
When you think about that being the first show and this one, 13 years later now, you're running an anniversary show. That is, like you said, featured a lot on the homegrown talent. Obviously, this coming Saturday is Impact Wrestling Slammiversary, which is their 20th anniversary show. So, for instance, Chris Bay and Kenny King are, committed to their Impact duties. If those two were available, say, how much harder for you does it become to then fit some of the younger guys or guys who might have been around for, let's say, 2, 3, 4 years, that you look at as deserving, but when you have the opportunity to use guys like Bay and Kenny King, does that put you in a situation where it's just more difficult and then can come back on you as, oh yeah, Joe screwed me again. Here he goes. He loves, putting in Chris Bay into everything or throwing Kenny King in when Kenny, is hardly here, or that kind of attitude. Is that something that floats around very often when it comes to guys possibly not getting the opportunity because of the fact that you have other guys that, are fan favorites and have been loyal to you?
Well, without a doubt, Chris Bay, if he was available and was wanting to work, Chris Bay would have a spot. You know what I mean? Yeah. Kenny's always been kind of in and out, you know what I mean, to where he's always had those Ring of Honor obligations. So, he was never like, if he was not available or he was available, it was kind of like if we had something for him. If we had something for him, then I would hit him up. If there wasn't a set thing, it's like, things got changed because of situations, as they always do. Sky High, for example, are deserving of a spot. They're a babyface tag team. They had lost to TBD in a contenders match at the Mecca. So to have them wrestle TBD again, well, we've already seen that. So that keeps them on the outskirts. You know what I mean? We had talked to numerous ex-FSW tag team champions, from the Commandos to the 1%. And, we had good conversations, the Reno Scum. And the idea was try to bring somebody who, it's an anniversary show, bring a champion from the past. And it just wasn't able to be done. And at that point, the faction as heels were probably the best option to have that match against DPD. You have conflict. It could be a big night for the faction. Ice Williams going for the heavyweight title. That plays into effect. You can put Braxton. You put him in the cash in the case. So, it could be a clean sweep for Lights Camera Faction. Could be a big moment. So you want that to play out and, possibly happen. A guy like Nick Xander, he was penciled in the cash in the case ladder match. He was a young kid, rookie of the year. He had accomplished other things, and he's done quite well this year. So you want to give him an opportunity a little more than, say, the Battle Royal. where normally that's where he would have probably fit in. He's only a year or two in. Same thing with Brett the Threat. Well, the best thing that happened to Brett the Threat was Cal Jack. And we've kind of set up a storyline. So why wouldn't we have the payoff at the anniversary show? The Nick Xander thing came along quick. Clutch discussed making a return, making a solo return, and he's still on our student page, even though he's not a student. And he sees Joe go off on some of the younger guys and seeing what's there. And, he truly believes. Now, I'm not saying he doesn't believe Nick Xander or Brett the Threat are quality, but he feels, the body of work of a lot of the younger guys doesn't match up to what had been in the past. And he feels that those guys seem to believe they deserve more without working as hard. So he has that chip on the shoulder. Brett has his match with Cal Jack. Who's the perfect option? Who's the perfect foil for Clutch, other than Rookie of the Year, who's usually over with the fan base? And we were able to, in one show, make that a credible match that people are interested in seeing. So now you got those matches, Hammerstone and Ice. We've set that up. So now we got the tag match. We got the cash in the case. We got the heavyweight title. We got the grudge match with Brett the Thread and Cal Jack. Let's make it a submissions match. And then we have, Nick Xander and Clutch. We're already at 5 matches. Now you add the Battle Royal, which is 6. We thought we had the women's match, which was 7. And then I think the only one we're missing is the ladder match.
Well,
if I'm not mistaken.
Did you, I don't think you said we got.
Oh, no, I'm at the Nevada State Championship, where that's over a year in the making with Gregory Sharp and Remy Marcel. So
and then,
for the cash in the case, we put in 4 qualifying matches. Damian Drake isn't really feuding anybody, but he's had a big year. He beat Matt Vandergriff. Oh, Vandergriff and Jay Vidal. Yeah. We did there was a surprise new No Limits champion. So they've had 2 matches. It's 1-1. This is the tiebreaker with the No Limits title on the line. You got Sharp and Remy, where it's gotten extremely physical with weapons. So we're doing a no hills bar match. And then, as I said, cash in the case. Damian Drake, Ricky Tenacious, could be his breakthrough moment. Braxton could be his breakthrough moment. Lazarus kind of, stuck in thanks to Clutch. So now you got 4. Well, traditionally, we like to do 6. So now we're going to pick the availability. Well, having a guy who's been there since day one, Funny Bone, in that match, that's the perfect match for him. So now you got 5. And then Jacob Austin Young has won it multiple times. And now we got 6. And since Death Proof's not in a tag, it leaves the other guy, who's also a former tag team champion, former No Limits champion, a Rookie of the Year, one half of Death Proof, been around for the entire 13 years. You can't put Cody in the Battle Royal. So we extended to 7. And now we have the cash in the case. So now one of Dave Mazzani I hit up like, hey, Nostalgia, Leon Hader. You mix in, hey, Sky High, the Suavecitos. In a perfect world, they're tag teams that are the upper echelon of our groupings, but we're not doing another multi-man tag. So they're deserving of being on the show. So, Blair Brody, John Wolfgang, Devin Reno, who've seen, a lot. And we're trying to figure it out, giving some new blood, maybe their first opportunity ever to be in a ring with some of the younger students working hard and being around. And, I like to reward those guys. Yeah. Chase Bell, hard fought lost. maybe got robbed against Ricky Tenacious. Of course, he's going to be in the Battle Royal. Bodie, love to have Bodie. I was trying to set up an angle with Disco Inferno for months. Just didn't happen, but that doesn't mean it's not going to happen down the line,
Right.
I could just see Disco try to obliterate Bodie on the microphone, but, against underage talent, Disco Inferno is 0-1, losing to Maxwell Hardy when he was only 2. So, who's to say what could happen in this one?
Yeah, and I think it's safe to say I think that Bodie is a little more advanced than good old Maxwell Hardy was when he was 2.
A little more, yes.
A little more. Now,
maybe not while he's 9, but who knows how much ring time he's got.
Well, here's a question about a scenario, and I've never thought of this, but because Bodie is at that point where he's still, maturing into, becoming a man, he's still fairly light. If someone was to, say, throw Bodie into the front row and he was caught and his feet did not hit the ground, could he be passed back into the ring and technically still be in the Battle Royal because he wasn't eliminated? Have you ever seen anything like that done?
Probably Spike Dudley back in the day. He used to get crowd surfed. Kofi Kingston never touched the ground in numerous occasions. But, I got big plans for Bodie. I'm trying to put together, everybody always hears about Joe DeFalco's story about the Splat Pack and Mean Martin and Slammy Davis Jr., which is still in the back pocket. But watching Nick Wayne and Bodie and Billy Starks, I came up with an idea for the Brat Pack. Yeah. And, there's still other people. The Marcus Mathers kid, he's just 18. Davion, Dana Lynn, and, I think that might have some legs, all these underage talents that are really, making a name for themselves.
So we're talking a Saturday detention match.
It could be the Breakfast Club match.
Yeah. When you think about some of the time that's been taken into some of the longer storylines that you've set up here, are you satisfied when you look at the stories now that you feel that they've been taken to a point where the anticipation for the matches themselves equals the hype you were looking to get in that story? You think everyone's done a fairly good job? And we're talking, mainly Greg Sharp and Remy and Hammerstone and Ice. Do you think that that's reflective in terms of some of the other anniversary shows that you've had the storylines going into them? Do you think these are stories that match up to some of the stuff you've done in the past?
I think we've done some great stuff in the past. You go last year, Jay Vidal and Gregory Sharp, that got set up and that was, a great feud, Vandergriff and Damian Drake, it kind of came out of nowhere. That was after the anniversary show because of the injury, right. But there was Ice Williams and Chris Bay, that was a big time deal, and it's happened, throughout the years that, if you look back, that's what's been the cornerstone of the popularity of FSW, that what you're going to get, and when you aren't knowing of what you're going to get, you expect it to be good anyway. Right. We'll have shows that we don't announce more than 2 or 3 matches, but they have enough faith that FSW is going to bring in a guy that are like, oh, wow, this Adrian Quest guy's good. Oh, Royce Isaacs, Jarrell Nelson. Oh, yeah, these guys are good. Danny Limelight. There's so much talent. Tito and Che, Brandon Gatson, Eli Everfly. Like, they always know. I always try to make the students understand. I am never going to bring in a guy who's worse than one of you guys, because as students, the idea is to try to get you on a show. If I bring in somebody lower than you that leaves you off the show, that really doesn't serve much of a purpose. So when people question, well, why do you bring in Eli Everfly? Well, because he's better than most of you guys. My goal is to try to put the best show out there possible. It's not about participation trophies. There's always going to be hurt feelings. No matter what, everybody's not going to be happy. The Suavecitos, and mainly Danny, are never happy. I had a yap at him last week. He's crying about something. It's like, you just got a tag team title match, bro. Shut the fuck up. And it's no different than Sky High, who might be quieter about it, but they've been around a while. They see a title change happening, and they see a team that's been presented in a newer way in Shogun and Hero Lou. They might feel slighted, but they aren't going to say anything to me about it.
Right.
And some people just go out there, do their job, and try to prove to me why they're deserving. And some people go out there and they think I'm not paying attention, so they need to let me know. I don't have issues with either or. All I expect is professionalism. Go out there and do your job. Whether you like it or you don't like it, it's not of my concern. If you don't like it, like some people have in the past, they chose not to be a part of it. I see guys who I look at that got put in good storylines, but because they didn't win, that was their beef. Oh, yeah, well, I was in a storyline and I had a video made about me, but I lost in the match. And it's like, okay, and I try to explain to the people that are around, when I talked to Hammerstone, it took a long time for me to confide in Hammerstone of what we're looking to do. He's earned that right. And it's like, hey, I got this idea. I got this idea from Remy about Young Boy beating you to win the heavyweight championship. What do you think? This is the scenario. You're feuding with Cross. Ba, 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 ba. Okay, I can go with that. Okay, now he knows as well as I know, if I was insistent about it, it would happen regardless. But I wanted his stamp of approval because he had done so much for us that he was getting the title back. But I thought this was a good way to enhance the steel cage match that was going to happen, 3 weeks later. It shocked the fucking world. It shocked Vegas. It was a big fucking moment, and we like to do that on occasion. We had the Young Bucks for a couple shows. So it's like, you know what? We're going to have the Young Bucks win the tag titles at the school. That way people can say, fuck, I should have made it to that show. But usually it only happens at the big show, so I didn't think I was missing anything. So on the final match of the final show of AEW weekend, the Full Tilt Collective, 7 shows deep, I decide, hey, this is what we're going to do. And now we have a new No Limits champion where people are like, oh, man, I should have went to the show. Yeah, you're right. You should have, because you never know what you're going to see. And you got to keep the fans on their toes, because if they know exactly what they feel is going to happen, because there's always leaks and wrestlers are always Facebook friends with everybody. And some people have to splurt out what's going to fucking happen or leak a little bit about things that you don't want leaked and things like that. So, sometimes I'm pretty sure almost everybody did not know, even when the match was happening, that Matt Vandegrift was winning. You know what I mean? It was like I kind of left that last thing on the run sheet blank, so nobody knew who was going to win. Which was the same thing when we did the New Year's Eve show, and Jay Vidal wrestled Chris Bay. Yeah. We had Jay Vidal believing that Chris Bay was going to win, and the thing happened. He hit the move, and all of a sudden it was 1, 2. And even Ref Isaac, who fucking knew that was going to be a title change, you could see. If you look back, go watch, you could see 1, 2, and he kind of hesitates and then hits the 3. Like, even he was still kind of, even though he was told, like, maybe Chris Bay's working me, I don't know, and he counted the 3. And that emotion you see from Jay Vidal, like, he was literally crying his fucking eyes out. Well, I don't think Jay's that great an actor, but he didn't know. So the emotion hit him like, holy fuck, the company believes in me and given me the title, you know. And Chris had to switch it up because, Joey might have told Mikey might have told this person. And then it gets back to Chris Bay, 3 weeks before the show. Oh, yeah, you're winning. And Chris Bay has to downplay it. No, this is what we're going to do. So I got to play up to it. And, Chris Bay hits me up. Like, oh, what the fuck? You can't keep a secret? It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And it's like, it's usually my son who gives it away. Because I tell him thinking, hey, he'll be quiet about it. But then he tells somebody who he confides with, who tells somebody, and all of a sudden, everybody, I'm the only person who doesn't know that everybody else knows. So with the Vandegrift thing, Joey was sick, so I didn't let him know. So pretty much nobody knew. I went to Jay Vidal the night before at the Silver Nugget. Said, hey, I got this idea. And he was like, cool. And again, if he didn't like the idea, it still would have happened because this is what I was looking to do. But I know as close as they are, he loved the idea because, that relied on Matt, who lives in Orlando now, and, we're still pushing for him. I'm offering him the no trade exclusive contract, but, waiting to see if he signs it. But he was like, yeah, I'll be here for the anniversary. It's like, okay, well, this is what we're going to do. He's like, cool, and Matt's great because Matt knows that Joe has gone out of his way to give him some fantastic opponents, and the guy moved away and he still got to work Mike Bailey, Chris Bay, Jay Vidal, TJ Perkins, just to name a few.
Yeah.
Richards, I don't even know if he was in there with him. Maybe not.
A weird question. I'm pretty sure the answer is that they don't allow it, but Matt Vandegrift recently here, I think within the last week, showed up on Dark. AEW tends to have 92,000 titles on their show. They don't necessarily allow talent.
You need to start over. You kind of blanked out.
So Matt Vandegrift was recently on Dark. AEW has so many belts on their shows. Do they allow the talent to potentially bring out a belt like the No Limits title if Matt wanted to wear it out?
Absolutely not. Generally, most of those guys, as prestigious it is for them, generally they're in a squash match type match. Yeah, you know what I mean? And it's like, well, That's great if you say he's the FSW No Limits champion, but then he gets beat up in 13 seconds. It doesn't really, showcase. For the fans watching, they're not getting to showcase what Matt Vandegrift can do. Matt Vandegrift is going there to try to do whatever the AEW brass want him to do. And in some cases, you get a little offense. In some cases, you get a lot of offense. And in some cases, you get no fucking offense. But, it is what it is. It's based on what people know of you. Toa Leona goes in there. Well, to have him get squashed by Orange Cassidy probably wouldn't do him much good. As I joke to him, I'm like, hey, bro, what's up? You going down the dark to get, squashed by Orange Cassidy? No. And what did they do? He got to shine against FTR in the first 3 minutes, 2 minutes of his match. Unfortunately, they had him lose to guys like QT Marshall and stuff, but, one was a contracted wrestler and one wasn't. So as much as I want to see Toa, get the win, you got to get that contract first.
Right. And when you look going into this week for the anniversary show, what does it look like right now for the ticket situation? And are there still front rows available? What is that shaping up like right now?
Yeah, we still got tickets available. I would have hoped by now front row would have been sold out, but it's not yet. It's Father's Day, coming off 7 big shows a couple weeks ago. It's going to be a great show. We expect a good crowd, but I would hope on our anniversary we have a great crowd. So, at this point, I'll be honest, I'm a little disappointed on, what's going on in the ticket pricing. The ticket pricing is good. We kind of kept it lower than the AEW weekend just because I know financially a lot of people took a big hit. So it's like, we got a lot of our regulars in the front row as usual. And, walk-up's always an important factor also. So it always makes you nervous that even a good pre-sale doesn't guarantee a big crowd. Last year we had back-to-back anniversary shows, and we drew very, very well the first show. And the second show was a combination of 2 nights in a row, as well as, Rancho Swap Meet type heat with the air conditioning broken on day 1 caused us to have, far less people day 2. But we still had a great amount of people there. So, if we can do the low-end numbers of last year's anniversary show, I'll be more than happy. There's a lot of stuff going on. And the more you look at it, the more of a factor it is with so many things. And I'm not just talking wrestling, I'm just talking everything that's going on in this town. In the last year, they've added, an arena indoor football team, a minor league hockey team. They got the Aces still. There's just a lot of shit going on. There's concerts are now full blown everywhere again. Sometimes there's a lot more limited stuff. People wanted to get out. Last year's anniversary show was kind of the coming out party for people to actually go out and do things. So now between the network and ordering it on Fight TV, some people would rather relax and, sit at home and enjoy the show there. Or hey, who wants to watch Impact Slammiversary? You know what I mean? And not that you can't watch it later, but I'm not going to make any excuses that it's Father's Day, because I know in the past we've run Mother's Day or Father's Day and we've done well. So, there's still plenty of time. Our regulars, they'll commit because they know they can commit at any time. So, we have 2/3, 3/4 of front row sold out. So it isn't like, oh shit, we got 20 front row sold. But, we're seeing some familiar faces, and we're counting on the students. We're offering heavily discounted prices for family and friends of the younger wrestlers. And now we're going to see how a guy who's never been on an FSW show as talent, who gets to be in the Battle Royal, shows his worth by saying, "Hey, Joe, here's some money. I sold 6 tickets." It'll be really disappointing again if Dave Mazzani outsells all the fucking kids on ticket sales because he hustles.
Yeah. Speaking of ticket prices, I don't think I ever asked you this question over the last couple of years. When you think back to the first Rancho Swap Meet show, the first show, if you were to do today throwback prices, what was the price of admission for that show?
I'll be honest with you. I believe, because I don't really remember, and I think they were $20 or $25 for front row, and probably 10 or 15, leaning toward 15 on the GA. Now, back in the old days, I could go on Facebook, and when you scroll down, it gives you the year. So if I went and did the year, but of course they took that away. I can't erase one message.
Yeah.
I can't like hit a box and erase a bunch of messages. I have to do either all of them or one at a time. There's so many ridiculous things. In the past, I'd scroll down and be like, oh, okay, 2010 or 2009. Boom, let me click it. And then it'll show a flyer that we did, and it'll show me the price.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, you can't even do that anymore. I probably have a flyer for that event somewhere in my collection of things, but I know we did the throwback prices at the calm before the storm.
Right.
And we did $20 front row and $10 general admission. And, it definitely helped with some late sales for the event.
Let me ask you this then, since we are dealing with, a little bit of just inflation and, recession-like feelings and, just everything kind of, out of what it was just a year ago to what it is today, even. How does that affect you as a business owner in trying to, maintain the standard that you've established, and yet at the same time trying to make sure that you're also not totally taking a bath on, making sure that shows get done and that everything is up to the standards that you have set for FSW?
Well, when I'm putting a show together, I don't really look at the numbers of the cost and things like that. That's usually added in afterwards when the card's kind of set, and then I'm like, oh, I wonder how much this show's going to cost. All right, now we got the venue, and now it's like, oh, okay. FSW versus Revolver was extremely expensive.
Yeah.
Not only because of the talent, and again, the talent were great. Hey, this is an important show for us. So Sammy's crew worked for a rate I would never get them for. And the main guys of ours worked, for the pricing they would normally work for me for. And, everybody did their part to make it happen. And, the bottom line was, well, we had to get some flights, and the JT Dunns and, the Josh Alexanders and the Trey Miguels. But we were lucky enough, like for example, not that we were lucky, but Trey Miguel was doing mocap in San Francisco. So he had a flight here. Problem was he got to our show late because there was an issue. He didn't get done the mocap early enough, and he missed the flight and had to go on a later flight. And basically, as our show was ending, there's Trey Miguel walking in. Hey, what's up, Trey? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we're not responsible for that. But a lot of times there's three-way splits, and Josh Alexander had a show, and Prestige was running where some of the guys were on. So the cost became less. But again, it was still a show that's going to cost twice as much as the anniversary show. Because the anniversary show, we're using the best of our localized talent, and if you're not from Vegas, obviously Arizona with Hammerstone, Jacob Austin Young, but Cal Jack lives out here now, and you got Ice, and you got Remy, and you got Sharp, and you got Jay Vidal, and Vandergrift gets himself out here, and Damian Drake and Nick Xander and Clutch, and all these guys have been a major part of FSW. Now, also New Japan's running that day. So that eliminated the opportunity to use the 1%. Tom Lawler and Danny Limelight, would have loved to incorporate all four of those guys. How good would the No Limits title match be if Danny Limelight was inserted into it and it was a three-way match?
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's like, there was Tom Lawler, special guest referee, and Cal Jack versus, Brett the Threat. Just little things that could have been done to make the card better. Oh, TJP, he's stuck in Japan, the bum, doing the Super Juniors, more important than the FSW anniversary show. You know what I mean? It's like, those opportunities, are there. Jeff Cobb. Now, that we use Jeff very often, but if he's in Vegas, the opportunity is possibly there. You know what I mean? And, it works out because I probably would have to scramble if 3 or 4 of those guys were able to make it, what happens to the card? Well, now there's no excuses. Number one, if we don't draw as well, maybe that's the reason why we need to bring in other people. Because they know you guys. They've seen you guys. They need fresher things. This is the culmination of feuds. So, this is an important show for us. It's our anniversary. This is where the family comes together. So, in reality, attendance is extremely important to me.
Yeah. Any final thoughts as we kind of get ready to wrap up here this week, going into this Sunday? Again, it's the 13th anniversary show. You'll be able to get your tickets now on fsw.com or check out, if you can't make it out, check out Fight TV. I believe it's running on Fight TV. How much is the pay-per-view if they do it on Fight, Joe?
For George Foreman, who'll be watching it, taking care of his mom still. It's $14.99. Except now George will bring 6 of his friends over. So instead of getting that $45 a pop, I'm only getting $1.15.
When you look at this week, just anything else you want the fans to know, anything that you want to share before we call it a wrap and look forward to the show on Sunday?
Well, it is our anniversary. It celebrates the very first FSW show, and the homegrown talent, regardless of what Clutch says, after him, we've also had Jay Vidal and Matt Vandergrift and Ice Williams, and Damian Drake. Well, maybe Damian Drake was around then. But no, Damian Drake was after Clutch, and you just see so much of the young talent who's on that show. You got Ice Williams in the main event. You got, Fresco and Watson in the tag title match against 2 homegrown guys, Shogun and Hero, trained exclusively at FSW. You got Remy and Sharp. Sharp started with us 9-10 years ago as a 19-year-old kid from California with some experience with Jesse Hernandez and San Bernardino, and looking at the card, Lazarus, we trained him. Ricky got a lot of his training with us. Damian Drake with us. Jacob Austin Young with us. Cody mainly with us. Funny Bone, he'd already been in the system. But, you look at all the guys that are challenging for titles or have titles, it's a who's who of Las Vegas wrestling. Our guys dominate the scene. That's why you see a lot of our guys working everywhere else, right? Because they're the cream of the crop.
And fans, if you don't have your tickets yet, get the tickets. Well, what time are doors opening, Joe? And what time is the?
We're doing a little meet and greet at 4:30 for the VIPs. Doors open at 5. It's the summer, so we want to get you guys out of there. So we're going to start at 6. So the show should be over, between 8:30 and 9. And we're looking forward. That we're still hoping Sin Bodhi. I forgot he's also going to be in the Battle Royal. The date came available. Well, unfortunately, 10 days before, there isn't room to just add a match to have Sin Bodhi on it. You know what I mean? Right. And love to, but we're still talking to a few others who haven't been seen in a while. That nostalgia wise, it might be cool to see. A face that you haven't seen in an FSW ring in 2 years or 6 years, or 10 years,
So that push to get Greg Romero looks like it paid off, huh?
You never know. I guess you would have to be there, But honestly, I think there's a better chance that Eddie Guardado is going to be there before him. So, but
man.
it is what it is. Everybody, that pandemic changed, a lot of people's lives and their direction of what they were, looking to do moving forward. And we're always been a company that, hey, you want to be here, that's who we want. If you don't really are engaged in being here, you know what? There's 1,000 other guys, and I'm not exaggerating when I say 1,000 other guys from all over the United States that would love the opportunity. Just take a look at AEW Weekend at Luck of the Draw and the other shows to where, guys who lived in the Midwest or Jared Diaz from Florida are trying to figure out schedules to get themselves out here because they want the opportunity because they've seen the great talent. Yeah. And it isn't only just great talent. Anybody can say, oh, okay, I'm going to book Davey Richards and I'm going to book Kenny King and I'm going to book Chris Bay and I'm going to book Trey Miguel. It's booking guys like the Jay Vidals and the Matt Vandergriffs and these younger dudes who are really, really good, but they're under the radar. Yeah. And the Eli Everflies and things like that. So Jared Diaz now looks at, hey, you know what? I'm really good. I might not be feeling that I'm getting the right opportunities. Maybe if I go to FSW, it opens up the West Coast scene for me. I can maybe get some bookings elsewhere. But I know, being the style of wrestler I am, there's a good chance I'm going to work a Jay Vidal, a Matt Vandergriff, a Damian Drake, a lot of the younger No Limits talent that we have in the division, which, I believe is the number one reason why guys like Sky High and the Suavecitos and Nick Xander and Chase Bell have gotten as good as they have at such a limited time doing this. Because whether it's in training or it's in matches, they're usually, as they say, you want to get better, work better people. Well, it's as good as it gets. You can walk in, on an FSW training session and see, half the roster there. So, how do you not get knowledge from people? And then you got a Kenny King and a Sin Bodie, and you got, a Cody around, or a TJP occasionally, a D'Lo Brown occasionally, to where these guys, can give you information. They can give you knowledge, Then you got the guys like Van de Griff or Jay Vidal who are working in Impact or an AEW Dark, or you get a guy who's coming in from out of town like a Toa or a Juicy who's now signed with MLW. That, look at all the guys that make it, and look at all those guys when I first used them. They hadn't made it yet, but I saw something in him or in them, because again, I'm not going to bring in out of town talent that I don't feel are going to get to a higher level than they're at already. You know what I mean? So it's like, you're going to get those opportunities, and some guys get those opportunities by making them for themselves. Like, I got a list of, like, I hit up John Wolfgang, like, dude, how many of you guys are coming from Arizona? And he listed like 9 guys, like 3 of them I have no idea who they are. And it's like, hey, just so you know, there might be some spots like for you and Blair Brody and Devin Reno for a battle royal. But unless things occur, like there may be 1 or 2 spots available, because I'm pretty sure Mondo Rocks won't be on the show. And I don't know where Robbie's head is at the time. So if those 2 spots don't open, we were looking to do an even number, can't do 13 because that's not enough people. So you're looking to do 20 or 25, or it's Vegas. You could do the lucky 21 Nick Bockwinkel Battle Royal. Now, if I have 19 guys, because Sky High's not going to be there, and I got to add to, I got to see which one of my students who's never had a opportunity to be in ring, is he more valuable to use than, say, a guy like Kevin Koa from Arizona, who came out for 3 months, 6 months, just trying to help and be around when needed. And then when he got the opportunity, I'll be honest, first time we had him used, he had a shitty match, and it was like, ugh, well, we needed somebody in the tag team, and him and Eldon, I wasn't aware of their work, and they had a really good match against TBD. So now those guys, if a spot opens, they're the first ones that are going to get it, because they made the effort.
Yeah, and that's one of the most important things. Again, if you're a young wrestler, it's all about the effort, and Arizona sets a good example where the guys travel together, and one might be booked on the show, but 8 others come and support each other, and it's good to be seen and shake hands and say hello, and it's just part of that networking. And I think that's a big thing that gets forgotten. Travel in groups, network, get your faces out there, because it really does help.
I heard rumors the Big Boss might even be down. Dom the Bomb Vitale.
Wow, I didn't think Dom traveled anymore, but I guess he was right. He just wrestled at the ECW arena, which was on his list. So
yeah, he's close friends with our ring announcer.
Yes, he would be, right?
Yeah,
I think it's Josh Shibata, right? You're talking about?
No, I think it's the other one. So the thing is, it's like, if there's a spot and he wants it, why would I not give Dom Vitale a spot? Dom Vitale here's a trivia question, if you're ever asked. Dom Vitale was part of the worst battle royal in the history of FSW. Okay? I believe it was the first Silver Nugget show. Okay? And we actually had guys from AU at the time. I'm not sure if Tommy Misfit or Thomas Day, as he's now known, was in the Battle Royal because he was in a pre-show. He may have been. There was a guy, Lex Luco, this guy, Jay Jameson, Dom was in it. His old partner, Frenchie Rivera.
Yeah.
Captain Calico. He was friends with like Cyanide and Vintage Dragon. But if you could ever find that was fucking abysmal. Wolf, who wrestled a little at Big Valley back in the day. I think I had him ref a match or two, so I don't even know if he was in that match. But I just remember it was a hodgepodge of young guys, and it was the fucking worst.
Do you remember who won that?
I do not know. I'm gonna say it might have been Dom, to be honest with you. So maybe he's 13 years later. You know, he is gonna try to defend his title, because when I get off the line with you, I'm gonna actually see. You know, I might actually do it now. Go on YouTube. I would hope that somebody was smart enough never to put that fucking match where anybody could see it. You know, we've had some bad matches. You know, there's my voiceover for the Blue Chew when they sponsored Cross and John Moxley. Bet you didn't know that.
Oh, no. We had no idea that you were the voice of Blue Chew for one glorious...
Yes. You know, they paid well.
Oh, I hope they would.
8th anniversary, and then it ain't looking like it.
Well, now everyone needs to get out there and scour the internet and see if someone actually posted that match.
Yeah, you know, I'm gonna have to go look at the FSW network, only $6.99 a month, and you could see the classics like that on the line. You could see. I might want to do that. Make a list of the worst matches in FSW history, because I remember one. We were doing a favor, and we did a spot at Sunset Station. It was some kind of taco festival or whatever. Sure. And that was when actually the main event was like Greg Romero was feuding with Kenny King. And then Ken couldn't make any of the shows after it. So that match never happened. And, of course, it became my fault. But we had two students, okay? And they were students. This guy, Chris, and Marco. And Marco had been training probably on and off for a year and a half. But he'd be in for like a month or two, disappear for 3, back for 2. So he didn't even have a match. And Kenny was like, "Whoa, you know, what about him?" And I'm like, "Yeah, he definitely ain't ready." "Oh, no, you know, I've seen him. He's all right. You know, I'll keep it short and sweet." And they probably had a 4 or 5 minute match. Neither guy could get up for anybody. It was like they're trying to do body slams. And it was just like, man, I hope nobody came to this festival, because if they did, they'd be like, wow, this is the fucking worst wrestling I've ever seen. Then there was a guy who was actually Chris Bay's first tag team partner, Heck Dynamite. And he was going to wrestle Cody. And Heck Dynamite wasn't bad. You know, he was moving along quick. But for some reason, like, he was having a panic attack and he couldn't remember shit. And he's in the car and Chris was trying to, like, you know, chill him out or whatever. And this was before, you know, Cody was maniacal Cody. So he was a lot more pleasant, thankfully, at the time. But, you know, he forgot all his shit and it was just fucking bad. And it was just like bad match after bad match, you know. And, you know, offhand, there's a few. You know, in Mesquite, we did the last Mesquite show. There was a women's match, and there was another match that followed what I thought was going to be the worst match ever at the time, was shockingly followed up by the next match on the show, that's possibly the worst ever. So you might be able to find that one online. I believe that was the last Mesquite show, which featured Kevin Cross and Chris Masters, and Kenny King against Jacob Austin Young. So it wasn't a bad show, but some dreadful shit, man. I'll tell you.
Well, that's a mission to come up with a list.
Homework assignment.
Put it on the FSW website and let people debate.
$5 off. $5 off if you watch any of those matches. But you got to give me a kind of you can't just say you saw the match. You actually got to tell me what happened.
Oh, man. Well, there you go. Ladies and gentlemen, you can get $5 off if you can prove that you actually sat through one of those matches. Not even all those, just one of those matches. So,
some of them weren't even like the ones at Sunset Park. I'm pretty certain. But you know what? We probably did film it. Now, I got like all the mini DVDs of like every show we ever did. So it may never really gotten transferred over because it was the fucking shits. But I'm pretty sure we do have that. But it's hard to get those mini DV players anymore. So that's the only way to play it back.
Yeah. Yeah, the transfers nowadays, if you don't have that.
There used to be a store that's all they did. It was on, I believe, Flamingo in either Paradise or Maryland. And it was like VHS something. And because when we did the TV show, we would have to put it into a different format, and they would do that. And we were able to capture the mini DVs also.
Yeah. Well, that's something that is going to be interesting to see down the road if the FSW vaults contain some of the most notoriously bad matches in history of not only FSW but maybe even pro wrestling as it's come out. So keep your eyes peeled, everyone. Again, it's this Sunday. It's Father's Day. It's 6 p.m. start time for the FSW 13th anniversary show. Again, you can catch it on Fight TV. If you can't make it into Vegas, $14.99 will be the price on that. And looks like it's going to be a fantastic show. The guys have, worked their asses off, the past half a year or so getting ready with these storylines and just a fascinating, just a fascinating setup to a lot of these stories that are going to culminate on Sunday. So, don't miss out on it. We appreciate everyone for tuning in. And next week, it looks like we'll talk about what happened at the show and where we're headed from here. So, Joe, until then, we will see you Sunday, and we'll see everyone else